Hello, everybody. My name is Konrad Djimeli. I am a third-year computer science student at the University of Buea in Cameroon. I'm actually a community organizer for the Google's developers group Buea, and I'm a GitHub campus expert. I'll be talking on building a tech community within an African society, and our community of focus will be the Silicon Mountain community in Africa. It actually feels great to be here, and I was excited to learn that my talk was selected by GitHub to be presented at this conference, and I was being flown all the way from Africa to actually talk at this conference. So what is the Silicon Mountain community? The Silicon Mountain community is a community in Buea in Cameroon, and it's actually located at the foot of Mount Fako, which is one of the tallest mountains in Africa. The Silicon Mountain community actually coined the name Silicon Mountain in an effort to emulate the success of the Silicon Valley. So why the Silicon Mountain? What can we learn from this community? Actually, the Silicon Mountain is an underrepresented community. We can learn about what we have achieved in the community. We can learn about where we hope to be in the future. We would learn about the difficulties facing developers in this part of the world and how we have been overcoming these difficulties. And we would also learn about how GitHub has contributed to the growth of such an underrepresented community. So we'll talk about our struggles, which are the difficulties we faced, our successes, what we've achieved, our efforts, which are the things we are doing to grow the community, and our vision, which is where we hope to be in the future. So our struggles. We actually struggle from lack of resources, and some of these resources include finance. And we lack finance to actually grow and actually create startups. We lack finance to promote technology within the community, to organize events, and we also lack finance to actually survive as developers in Africa or in Cameroon. We lack reliable and affordable internet. It's hard to get internet which is fast enough, and internet which is not going to disappoint you when you actually need it the most. And even if you find such internet connection, it's probably hard for you to afford. And I've actually had very poor experiences with internet connection. For example, there was a time I was doing an interview, and just when the interviewer said, "Could you please tell me more about yourself?" the connection was disconnected. I tried writing back to the interviewer, and whatever happened, happened, and I did not get a second chance. So we also have frequent power failure. It's difficult for developers to deliver on projects when they cannot guarantee the availability of power. And I have still had very poor experiences with this. For example, there was a time when I had an interview, and the interviewer was based in California, and I was in Cameroon, so it was already night by the time we were doing the interview, and there was no power. I had to keep my computer off in order to save power, and by the time we had the interview, given it was a technical interview, and I had to actually write out some things and do some calculations, so I needed some light, and I had to depend on a candle, and then struggling with poor network reception, and it was a really interesting experience. Also, we have poor educational standards, and so we are getting new into computer science. We are actually learning how to change our communities with computer science and programming. For example, in my university, I'm one of the first students to start the computer science program at the University of Buea. It was started in 2014. And we are trying our best when it comes to the theoretical part, but a lot of things like open source, real-life experiences are not really promoted in school. We also face difficulties. We also face difficulties in getting jobs and internships in the community. Like, as a developer in Africa, it's hard to get a company who is going to employ you to actually work on their projects. They would prefer to fly people from western parts of the world to actually come and work on projects. And even if you get a chance to work with them, they would like you to work very hard and pay very little. So a lot of people are discouraged into getting into computer science or programming from our part of the world. We also have political issues. We have recently been experiencing a lot of political issues which have caused some instability and insecurity in the community, and it also led to internet shutdown in the community. For example, at this point in time, I can't even easily reach my mom because where she lives is in the English part of the country, and social media has been shut down, so no Twitter, no Facebook, no WhatsApp, and she actually doesn't know how to use VPN. So we also have our successes, which are the things we have achieved so far. We'll start by talking about the Google Summer of Code. The Google Summer of Code is a program where students are being selected to work on specific open source projects, and they get paid a stipend by Google, and you also get the opportunity to interview for a job at Google, and then you get a cool certificate. So the Google Summer of Code, and our experience with the Google Summer of Code in our community goes way back to 2013, when we had our very first Google Summer of Code participants from our community. And these Google Summer of Code participants work with Buea, the Ballistic Research Laboratory for Computer-Aided Design, and they worked with researchers of the US Army Research Laboratory. And after this program, they had the opportunity to be flown to the Google's headquarters, where they met with a lot of interesting people during the Google Doc Camp. And when these developers had finished their program, returning to Cameroon, they actually shared their experience and helped to motivate other members of the community to contribute to open source and participate in the Google Summer of Code program. So in 2013, we had these 2 participants who were the first in sub-Saharan Africa, and they were coming from my university. And in 2014, we had 3 participants we had 2 female participants and 1 male participant. And this has actually helped to encourage the community and grow the community. Like with my personal experience, when I left high school, I wanted to do computer programming, but with the stigma we have in Africa, so many people believe you probably will not be able to survive as a programmer, and they don't know what companies you'll be able to work for. Like, we don't have tech companies there in Africa. And so I was discouraged and told to do maybe mechanical engineering, petrochemical engineering, or I could become a doctor. So I started doing computer networking because they said, okay, maybe you could get the opportunity to work for some of the telecommunications company to help improve our networks. So I was doing computer networking, and I did the CCNA certification in 2013, and in 2014, I enrolled into a computer engineering program in the University of Buea in order to specialize in computer networking. And during my very first programming class, one of these Google Summer of Code participants came into the class to talk to us about his experience. And when he told us about how he worked with researchers of the US Army Research Laboratory and had the opportunity to travel to the US and also earned as much as $5,500, I was very inspired by that. And when I learned that they actually got this experience not actually from school, but also just from learning at home and doing a lot of research, I was so inspired to the point where I actually dropped out of school. And my parents were not even aware I wasn't going to school, since I lived in a different town from them. And I spent the whole year learning how to code. I code for days and hours. I could code for I could read books about coding and write code for about 12 to 18 hours a day. And by the end of the year, I was a little bit confident with what I was able to do and what I knew about programming. So I enrolled into the computer science program in the University of Buea as one of the pioneer batch of students. And that academic year, I successfully participated in the Google Summer of Code. I also worked with Buea. I had the opportunity to also work with researchers at the US Army Research Laboratory. And after all that, everybody was excited, as that was actually a great achievement for me. Even my families were excited with what I had achieved. And I had seen the power of motivation. I had seen what others had been able to help me achieve by motivating me. And that was why I actually joined the Google Developers Group to help motivate others. And over the years, the number of Google Summer of Code participants have actually grown from 2 in 2013 to 3 in 2014 to 12 in 2015 and to 16 in 2016. And then in 2017, we had 8 Google Summer of Code participants. So in 2015 and 2016, we actually had the highest number of Google Summer of Code participants from Africa. And in 2017, the number had dropped, but it's worthy of note that during this point in time, we had no internet connection in our part of the country. So in the southern part of the country, there was no internet when we were applying for the Google Summer of Code. Most of us had to travel very long distances just to get a few hours of internet connection. And those who could not afford the chance to travel to other parts of the country could not apply for the program. And we still ended up having 8 Google Summer of Code participants and we all came from the part of the country where there was no internet connection. So we have the Google Coding, similar to the Google Summer of Code. The Google Coding is also a program where students actually contribute to open source. And but this program is breaking down for students who are between the ages of 17, to 13. And after the program, if you're a grand prize winner, you get the chance to travel to Mountain View and meet with Google developers, and you can also take along any other person you choose, like one of your guardians. And in 2016, our community actually produced the first Google Code in Grand Prize winner from Africa. And he also achieved this at a time where our community had no internet connection. So he actually had to travel to the capital of Cameroon where there was internet connection in order to complete the program, and his efforts were actually commended by the CEO of Google himself. We have the Nestle Creating Shared Value Prize, which is a competition that was organized by Nestle, and we had a tech startup from our community, which is called AgroHop, and they actually try to use technology to help farmers find market for their products, and they also try to use technology to help farmers improve the quality of their products. And at the end of the program, they were awarded a prize of 300,000 Swiss francs, which is also similar to 300,000 US dollars during the forum. So we've been talking about our struggles, we've talked about our successes. We'd like to talk about how we were able to overcome our difficulties in order to achieve our successes. We'll start by the Google Summer of Code meetups. This Google Summer of Code meetups was organized by Google Summer of Code participants and Google Developers Group organizers, where we actually talk to students about the Google Summer of Code program. We talk about open source, we talk about version control, GitHub. We talk about how to introduce yourself to an open source organization, and we talk about our experiences, and we motivate other students to develop interest and participate in the Google Summer of Code program. We have programming language meetup, which we locally call the PL meetups, and this is a collaboration of developers and startups within the community, where we actually organize meetups for various programming languages like C, C++, Python, Java, and other programming languages. These meetups helps other developers learn from the more experienced developers. And then we also have meetups for other skills like digital marketing. We have the Google Developers Group Buea. The Google Developers Group Buea is a group which is actually promoted by Google, where we organize events such as the Google I/O Extended, where we promote Google products and Google developers tools, and how we can actually use these products to help grow our community. We have the Women Tech Makers. So the Women Tech Makers Buea is actually part of the Google Developers Group. It's also sponsored by Google, and then they get the opportunity to organize the International Women Day Buea, where women actually share their experiences. They talk about the projects they've been working on. They help to inspire and motivate other women to develop interest in technology within our community. We have our local startups. These startups are trying to solve problems within the community using technology, and these startups also help new developers gain experience within the community, and they solve a wide range of problems such as financial inclusion, digital marketing, tourism, and agriculture, and a whole host of problems. These startups also help to support the community by volunteering, maybe financially or on other means. We had Internet Refugee Camp, which was rented by some startups and developers during the time when we had no internet, and this was located at the entrance of a French part of the country. So they had internet, and you could travel from Buea, which was an English part of the country without internet. You could travel every day to the Internet Refugee Camp and return back without having to go into the French part of the country where you could be stuck in traffic for hours. In this Internet Refugee Camp, they also did not have good power supply, so you could stay for up to 2 weeks without power. And the startups and developers contributed to actually provide generator and power for the place. We have Njaka. Njaka is a program in the community where we actually teach children how to code. So we use the Scratch programming language to actually teach children between the age of 7 to 13, and then we use open source web development and software application development to teach other students who are between the ages of 13 to 17. And with this Jaka program, we were supported by GitHub, we were supported by Coda Dojo, and we also got a certificate which we were able to hand over to the students after the program, which the certificate came from Coda Dojo. And we also had the opportunity to go right to the very remote parts of the country. We have the opportunity to attend international conferences. So it's very valuable for members of such an underrepresented community to attend international conferences, because when we attend these conferences, we learn a lot about how technology is being used in other parts of the world. We meet a lot of people who inspire us. We gain a lot of motivation, and we learn what it takes to actually become world-class developers. We also have the Silicon Mountain Conference, which is our flagship conference in the Silicon Mountain. We actually invite people from everywhere to come and learn about the Silicon Mountain community, and we also share our experiences, and we learn from those who come from other parts of the world or of the country. We have GitHub, which has actually contributed a lot to the growth of the community. GitHub itself as a platform has actually made it easier for us to collaborate on open source projects. With GitHub, we have been able to work on specific open source projects where we have met with experts and be motivated by the work they have been doing. GitHub as a platform also helps us build an online portfolio where we can actually show off the work we have been doing without just saying we have been working on certain projects. We also have the GitHub Student Developer Pack. With the GitHub Student Developer Pack, we have access to various services and resources which we normally would not have been able to afford. For example, we have access to a 1-year free domain, a personal domain name from Namecheap. And ever since I got this free domain name through the GitHub Developer Student Pack, I believe I have had more responses to some of the opportunities I've applied for, because when you actually apply for an opportunity and they see you have a personal website, it shows you are more professional and serious with what you're doing. We have the GitHub Campus Experts Program. I am actually part of the GitHub Campus Experts Program, and as part of the GitHub Campus Experts Program, we receive training for public speaking, technical writing, software development, and with this training, we are able to help build our communities, and after the training, we also get support from GitHub to organize programs and events to help grow technological innovation within our community. And the most impressive thing about the GitHub Campus Experts Program is it doesn't only promote GitHub-related programs, but any program that has to do with technology in general. So we have our vision, which is to become the leaders of technological innovation in Africa. And we hope to do this by building world-class startups. We hope to solve the critical problems in our communities using technology. So how can you contribute to the growth of this community? By promoting open source. So if you promote open source, you actually give us a chance to contribute to open source. You give us a chance to learn about real-world software development. And with programs like the Google Summer of Code, the Linux Foundation internship, the Google Coding, you get the chance to actually support yourself while contributing to these open source programs, and it's really motivational. For example, I would also soon be starting a Linux Foundation internship, which is a 6-month part-time internship where I'll be working remotely for the Linux Foundation. These are opportunities which can help people from underrepresented parts of the world to actually contribute to open source and support themselves while doing it. You can also support our events. You can do this by supporting them financially, or you can also do this by coming to speak at our conferences in order to motivate members of the community. You can support our startups. You can support them financially. You can also provide them with free services. You can provide scholarship for members of such underrepresented communities to actually attend international conferences so that they can learn about what is happening in other parts of the world and how people are using technology to solve problems. They can get inspired and they can bring back their experience to help grow their community. So I would like to quote Terry Riederman by saying, success isn't just about what you accomplish in life, it's about what you inspire others to do. Africa has a lot of talent and potential which just needs to be properly guided. So I would actually like to see more individuals and more persons from other parts of the world actually create programs to help grow the African tech community. No matter what you do, no matter how small you think it is, you'd actually be surprised at what impact your contribution can have to the life of other people. So let us help build communities that code. Thank you all. Thank God for this opportunity. You can find me on GitHub, DJ Konrad, or my personal website. Thank you.